Namaste. Good morning to those on the western part of the world, and good evening to those in India. Thank you very much for joining the month-long Global Festival of Oneness, celebrating life and works of Adi Shankaracharya ji. It's been a wonderful pleasure for all of us to listen to wonderful speakers who come from all walks of life, sages, swaminis, thinkers, academicians, and authors. It's been a feast to the soul. And today we are really honored to have Dr. K. Aravinda Rao Garu as our speaker. Aravinda Rao Garu is not new to the Advaita Academy. For those of you who are informed about the Advaita Academy programs and online activities. So this Global Festival of Oneness is being celebrated since the Adi Shankara Jayanti at the end of April. And we are having two sessions, one session in the morning at 6 o'clock a.m. in India, and then one at 6:30 p.m. So please visit Advaita Academy website as well as the Facebook page to register. And please inform your friends and family to make this festival a grand success. So Aravinda Rao Garu, namaskaram, welcome to the festival. Dr. Aravinda Rao Garu's bio is just incredible. When I saw it last night, I felt that I have a lot more to accomplish in my life after seeing how much he has done. He is a retired Director General of Police in Andhra Pradesh. He studied bachelor's and MA in English from Sri Venkateswara University. He has joined the Indian Police Force in 1977 with almost 34 years of service in IPS in various capacities. He has won the Indian Police Medal and the President's Medal for Distinguished Service. He has worked as Superintendent of Police, SP in 5 districts, and he was also the Commissioner of Vijayawada. Sir, I come from Vijayawada. I'm born in Vijayawada, and I'm really honored that you have served my hometown. And he also worked as Deputy Secretary General, Inspector General Guntur, worked as DIG, and there's a lot more. He also authored a book on Naxalite terrorism. But let's talk about his other side of his life. You know, besides serving the society as an IPS officer, his bio and accomplishments in Sanskrit studies is just incredible. He has studied under the guidance of Mamahopadhyaya, Padma Sri P. Sri Ramachandru Garu, a renowned professor in Sanskrit. Also studied Vedanta under the guidance of Sri Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati. He also passed an MA in Sanskrit and also obtained a PhD in Sanskrit. Sir, I don't know how anyone can do so much. It's just, it's really an honor. He has also, his thesis for his PhD is titled The Concept of Jnanam in the Upanishads. And once again, he was awarded a gold medal for that PhD thesis. And his thesis was later published as a book. And he has published so many other books. Bhagavad Gita, manakemi cheptundi. What does Gita tell us? How to tell Hinduism to your child. That sounds like a fantastic book, and which has been published in English and Telugu. Akena Upanishad, a guide to Bhagavad Gita, Kathopanishad, Isavasya Upanishad, Bharatiyam, Mundakopanishad, and lot of motivational verses in Sanskrit, Aditya Hrudayam, Bhajagovindam, Sandhya Vandanam. It's just incredible. So when I was reading this, I felt like you are as prolific as Adi Shankara himself, and it's really an honor to have you. And you also have other books that you are about to publish. And Sri Aravinda Rao Garu also has an honorary title of Vachaspati by the Rashtriya Samskrita Vidyapeetham in Tirupati, and Samskrita Seva Vrati by the Rashtriya Samskrita Samsthan in New Delhi. So his bio his accomplishments are truly incredible, and we're really honored. And sir, I would like you to start the presentation right now.
Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram. Om. Good evening, friends. And thank you, Sri Ravi Shankar, for a very, very generous introduction. reminding me of my, say, past life, you can say past career. And now, today my topic is the Gita Bhashyam by Sri Shankaracharya. And Sri Shankar, I will not give much introduction, I'll straight go into the subject. The Gita Bhashyam, Shankaracharya, the Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya says, is the sum and substance of the entire Vedas. Samasta Vedartha Sara Sangraha Bhutam, he says. Samasta Vedartha Sara Sangraha. It is actually a distilled summary of the entire Vedic, the corpus of Vedic literature. And also Durvigneyartham, very, very difficult to know. That is what he says here, and that is how he defines. So when he says that Bhagavad Gita is the sum and substance of the entire Vedas, and when he is writing a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, it also implies that he is actually writing a small, concise commentary on the entire Vedas also. So that is how we can understand. And if we see the look at the Vedas, they mean several things to several people. And as Swami Dayananda would say, Vedas are like a huge mall where everyone gets what he wants. So somebody wants to know some rituals, he will have. Somebody wants to have some mantra for snake bite, he will have it. Somebody else wants to have some mantra for controlling his spouse or controlling his boss or something like that. He will also have a mantra for that. So, and also the Vedas, they will tell about what is upasana, that is meditation, and what is self-knowledge and whatnot. So Vedas, they are like a huge text right from KG to PG. And every human being in the society is comfortable at one level or the other. Every man is comfortable. So the interpretation on the Vedas also differed accordingly. And why I am giving this introduction is in the same manner, just as they interpreted the Vedas in different manner, various people interpreted the Gita in their own manner, according to their own ideology, according to their own the doctrine of their own the school. So that is what we see. So, for example, some people they felt that rituals are the most important aspect. That is, one group says Vedas, they basically talk about rituals, and the highest goal is to attain some what is called heaven. And whatever is not connected with the rituals and whatever is not connected with heaven, attainment of heaven, etc., they are irrelevant. They are somewhat like something like obiter dicta. If you talk about Upanishads, etc., they are they are just mentioned in passing, some obiter dicta. So that is what they said. And also they made a grand statement. Amnayasya kriyarthatvad anarthakyam atadarthanam. That is, Amnaya, that is Veda, is basically meant for telling about what a man has to do. So if it is not connected with karma, it is of no use. So that is what some people said. And some others, they did not lay emphasis on this, but then they were talking about what is creation, what is God, etc., and what exactly is the supreme reality. But then they also wanted the God with a name, attributes, etc., etc. And that is how we have this worship the traditions like Vishnu, Shiva, Shakti, Ganesha, etc. Various traditions they also came. And some others they went slightly ahead, and they made an analysis of what is sentient in the universe and what is insentient. The entire universe is sentient. Insentient. And what is that sentient thing? So they made a distinction between what is called prakriti and what is called purusha. And in other words, what is called matter and mind. And they said these two things they exist independently. These two things exist independently, and that is the prakriti, that is in the what we call the universe. It exists independently, and the sentience or intelligence is something which is also existing independently. So that is what they say, some people. And of course, I am referring to what is called the Sankhya school. And now, the non-dualists, they say that there is only one single entity. That is, the Upanishads, they talk about only one entity. Of course, the Advaita Vedantins or the non-dualists, they do not denounce the karma. Karma has its own place. But that is not the ultimate, that is not the be all and end all of the entire the Vedic teaching. But enquiry, again, okay, you perform karma, but that karma can be performed for a particular reason, that is for chitta shuddhi, that is for purity of, for attaining purity of mind. And thereafter, one has to know the supreme reality, and that is the highest goal. And the Upanishads do not propose any particular God with a name and form. And Upanishads are also not sectarian in nature, and they are very, very universal, and they do not have any agenda to establish a religion. They are a totally open-minded exploration into the nature of reality. So that is what the Upanishads are. So, but at one point which we can also note is that though the six astika darshanas, as we call them, the astika darshanas, they do not talk about a particular personal God with a name and form, but they, most of them, they thought about a God with some attributes. It may be, the God may be Nirakara, that is, Nirakara is formless, but then he is also Saguna, because he is also in charge of creation, Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, etc., etc. And in practice, some of them, they were also sectarian. In practice, some people became Vaishnavites, some people became Shaiva, some people became followers of Shakti, etc., etc. So that is how the Vedas were interpreted by different different schools of philosophy, if we just see that. And exactly the same thing happened in the case of the Gita. Gita also was interpreted by different schools of philosophers, by different philosophers of different schools in different manner. So that is what we are now seeing. So they interpreted the Gita in different way, and also they also, each man, whenever I want, suppose I want to interpret a text, and of course I have respect for the text. I don't want to decry, I don't want to denounce the text, I don't want to deconstruct the text. So when I have respect for the text, I want to see the unity of thought. So every commentator, he wanted to establish some unity of thought in accordance with his own school of philosophy. So that is what has happened. And as I say, as we can see, some people, they relied on Puranas also while interpreting the text. Some people had some favoritism for a particular form. It may be Vishnu or it may be Shiva or something like that. So that is what they did. And if we see the Bhashyam of Shankaracharya based his commentary totally on the Upanishads only, and nothing else, nothing apart from Upanishads. And this Bhashyam, Shankaracharya's Bhashyam, does not mention any God. For example, when Krishna says I or me in the Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna more than 100 times. He says aham, mam, etc., mama, etc., etc. Tadhama paramam mama, he says, or manmana bhava madbhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru, etc., etc. He says there, he is not referring to Krishna as a person. He is actually speaking as a spokesperson of that ultimate reality which we call Brahman, So that is what we have to remember. So Shankaracharya points out that when Krishna says I, he is not referring to him, Krishna as a person, Krishna as son of Vasudeva, but he is speaking as a representative, as a spokesperson of that supreme reality, which is that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Suppose you take some other interpretation, we may come across statements like this. For example, I am reading from another commentary, where he says Manmanava Madbhakta, who is I, when he is referring to I. For example, one commentator says Pundarikadala Amala Ayatekshane Swachya Neela Jimuta Sankashe Yugapad Udita Dinakara Sahasra Sadrusha Tejasi, then Amala Kirita Makara Kundala Hara Keyura Katakadi Vibhushite. So like that, he is describing a person who is very greatly, very highly adorned, and then with so many ornaments, divine ornaments and whatnot. He may be a billion times more powerful than a person like Schwarzenegger, but he is also a person. So that is how a great one commentator says. But then what we find in the Shankara Bhashyam is, it is totally in accordance with the Upanishadic philosophy. And when Krishna says Tad Dhama Paramam Mama, that is my abode, etc. For example, in that is 8th chapter, 21st shloka, when Krishna says Tad Dhama Paramam Mama, that is my place. He is not referring to a physical place. He is not referring to some sort of three-dimensional place somewhere in the space. But then he is referring to a level of understanding. That Dhama does not refer to a place, it is a state of understanding. So that is what Shankaracharya says. So similarly, we see that Shankara Bhashyam is very, very precise. We see that not a word more, not a word less. Anyuna anatirikta, as people say. So, and then the entire first, where a commentary is required, he writes. Where it is not required, he doesn't write. And the entire first chapter is evaluated in a small paragraph. And in that small paragraph, Shankaracharya points out that Arjuna's predicament is everybody's predicament. And Arjuna is every man. Arjuna is a sort of archetypal man. And what type of man is he? He is a man with a limited understanding or a wrong understanding his own self, what is his own identity rather. So that is what he says. And then this excursion into the Vedanta goes on because Arjuna becomes the immediate student. Arjunam nimitti krutya loka sangrahartham. He says, sarva lokanugrahartham. Shankaracharya says, Arjuna is a nimitta. Nimitta is, he is only a pretext. And making Arjuna a pretext, Krishna wanted to tell or give a great message to the entire humanity. So that is how the Shankaracharya starts. And if we want to see the entire Bhashyam, summarize Bhashyam of Shankaracharya, it is rather tough. But then I just want to mention a few highlights. In Shankaracharya's, the approach of Shankaracharya, first of all, I have to make a comment on the approach of Shankaracharya. If you see the entire Gita Bhashyam, the doctrine which Shankaracharya wants to convey is there presented in about 15 to 20 shlokas. The entire Gita out of 700 verses, if you take the Bhashyam of 15 to 20, about 20, let us say, on the outer side, about 20 verses, we see the entire philosophical debate. The entire philosophical debate which Shankaracharya wanted to present, it is contained in those 15, 20 shlokas only. And they are called actually Ghatta shloka. Ghatta, my gurus used to say that they are the Ghatta shloka, where you have to get down and then you have to go deep into that and then see what Shankaracharya is trying to say. Well, then that is where that debate, Shastra, Charcha is there. And at those places he says, Atra Kechid Ahuhu. Kechit means some people. And some other place he says, Kechit Panditam Manya Havadanti. Some people who who think themselves to be the Panditas, they say like this. And who are these Kechit? So we need to see, we need a teacher to say to whom Shankaracharya is referring, because Shankaracharya was answering his contemporaries. For example, whatever schools of thought were there at his time, Shankaracharya was debating with them. So, in fact, to understand the Shankara Bhashyam also, we need a teacher. We can't straight away try to read because we don't know. Atra Kechidahu, who he says, Kechit, who are those people? We want to know whether he is referring to Sankhya, whether he is referring to somebody else like Nastika, or somebody like Sankhya, somebody like Vaisheshika, or Mimamsaka. Well, we should know what it is. And among those shlokas, I will just give some examples. For example, the very famous shloka in the very beginning is the 16th shloka of the second chapter, 2-16, Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, where the Sat aspect of Brahman, because Brahman has been defined as Sat Chida Ananda, or in other words, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. What is that Sat or Satyam? Satyam, of course, not in, as we say, okay, I am sitting here, it is a matter of Satyam, and you are all listening, that is Satyam. Satyam doesn't refer to that. Satyam is that reality which cannot be negated at any point of time. Trikala Badhyam. I will not go into these details because if we go into details, we will not be able to cover anything. So that Sat aspect of Brahman is mentioned in this particular shloka and also in some other places, but here it is discussed in great detail. What I said is the Ghatta shloka I am referring to. Similarly, about the intelligence aspect or consciousness aspect or the Chit aspect of Brahman, you find it at the end of the Gita. Shankaracharya discusses it in the shloka, Siddhim Prapto Yatha Brahma, that is 18th Adhyaya, 50th shloka. he describes what is that consciousness. Consciousness where this knower, known, knowledge, what is called the Triputi, that Triputi is absent. It is not there. In the knowledge which we have about an external object, when I say that I know, I am looking at this book, I am the knower and the book is the object which is known, and then there is a process called knowledge. And when we say the God is all knowing, etc., etc., you are actually not doing any compliment, you are not actually defining that supreme reality correctly. We are actually making that supreme reality a person with some limited knowledge. So that pure consciousness is something which is like a sort of ocean-like consciousness, as teachers of Vedanta say. And then that there is no such thing as a seeing and there is no such thing as knowing. So that consciousness aspect is very well described in that 18th chapter. And again, the Vedanta talks about two levels of reality. One is what is called a tentative reality and what is called an absolute reality. So these things, that is, to use a technical term, we call it the ontological status of the universe. The ontological status of the universe, and when it how to compare it with the supreme reality, that is discussed in the 9th chapter, where Krishna says the entire universe is in me, all the beings are in me, Matstani sarva bhutani, he says. And the very next says, very next shloka says, Nacha Matstani bhutani, there is nothing in me. So what does it mean? So if you do not have patience to know, or if you do not have respect for the text, somebody may say Bhagavad Gita is full of contradictory statements, and some people have introduced whatever they wanted to write. So at what level Krishna is saying when he says Matstani Sarvabhutani, and what is the level at which he is saying Nachamatstani Bhutani? He is saying at a lower level first, and again he is going on to the higher level. That is, ontologically, he is talking at the level of a creator, and again at the level of the supreme reality. So these are things, these are shlokas where you find this Shastra discussion. And again, Shastra discussion comes when he talks about this creation is anadi, the whole universe is what is called beginningless. Here again, I will come to this point again. Why the importance of this particular point? Why he is calling it beginningless? And again, one more discussion is about several God forms. There are so many God forms and all that. People accuse us of having so many God forms, etc., etc. It is only because the supreme reality is one, and when that supreme reality is nameless and formless, you may visualize, you may conceptualize any form. And in fact, if we read the commentaries of other commentators like Madhusudana Saraswati, etc., we see that supreme reality, which is appearing as what is called Hiranyagarbha, that Hiranyagarbha is the womb, the golden womb, from which you are visualizing various forms like Vishnu, Shiva, this, that, etc. All those forms which we visualize, they are in that particular concept called Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha also is not a person who is sitting there. It is only a concept. So that is what we find in the 7th chapter. It comes to that. And again, there are questions like how an enlightened person, whether an enlightened person can do karma. See, karma yoga is for an ordinary man to purify his mind. But what about the enlightened person, a jnani? Can jnani do any karma? Yes, jnani can do karma. That is how Krishna was also. Nobody can deny, nobody can say that Krishna was not a jnani. But Krishna was very much engaged in karma, was very much engaged in various activities. Similarly, Janakadayaha, karmanaiva hi samsiddhimastida Janakadayaha, he says, karma is the Janaka, etc., though they were enlightened people, they were enlightened in the sense, not in the normal sense which we use, enlightened in the sense that they had that self-knowledge. They had realized that they had gone to that level of Aham Brahmasmi. So, though they were at that level, because of their prarabdha, because the king, he cannot abdicate his responsibility, he was discharging his royal duties. So, there were people. So, Sakta Karmanya Vidvam, so it's again a wonderful shloka on which Shankaracharya writes about how a jnani performs karma for Loka Sangraha. So, like that, there are so many points which we find here. And of course, these Bhatta shlokas, if we keep on saying, a person who is new to Shankara Bhashyam may not find it interesting at all. So I will stop here. I have just given a few examples. Then, okay, now a question will be there. How is this Bhashyam relevant to the modern society? Because we are all bothered about its relevance to us. How is it relevant to us? I'll try to say something about it. Usually, the sociological aspects, Swamijis, they try to avoid. And many of us, we are not Swamijis, so we can discuss what are the sociological implications and how the Shankara Bhashyam is very relevant to discuss with people, with our contemporaries. Of course, Shankaracharya did not fight shy of talking about them. Shankaracharya, in fact, he debated with all those people. But somehow our people are now fighting shy of doing so. So we are all aware of what is called the clash of civilizations, which is going on, and we are also aware about how the Western religions, they do have a very declared policy of dominating the whole world, and even by even by conversions and all that. So that is what we see, and how in that context, how the Shankara Bhashya is going to come to our help. And I can say in the beginning that the adversaries of Shankaracharya, they were much stronger people. The adversaries of Shankaracharya were Nayayikas, Vaisheshikas, Sankhyas, etc. So they are all they are actually the stronger adversaries. And the adversaries who we have today, they are very puny people compared to those adversaries, because their religion, the people who want to dominate the whole world, their religion is basically based on faith. Whereas the adversaries of Shankaracharya, they were philosophical schools. So Shankaracharya had to debate on various philosophical aspects. But now there is no philosophy. There is no philosophy, it is only faith. So that is what we see. And then about the religions which are trying to dominate, I will just make a couple of points and then go back to Shankara Bhashyam. For example, the Western religions, the first point we have to know about the Western religions is they are not shaped by philosophy, but they are only shaped by belief. It's basically a belief system. So God is somebody with some names and some functions. So they may say that our God is formless, that is Nirakara, but he is a Saguna. Saguna means he is having lot many attributes. He has got certain, he interacts with people, he directs people, he commands people, not only Saguna, but strongly Saguna. Strongly Saguna. And they also say, yes, I am jealous, etc., etc., jealous about others, and intolerance is something which is built into the system. Whereas in the Vedantic tradition, we talk about one reality where it is not a person, it is a sort of impersonal entity, and there is Vaishamya, Nairghunya, Adhikaranam. There is an Adhikaranam itself in the entire discussion in Brahma Sutras, where the supreme reality is something which is above all. There is no Vaishamya, there is no Nairghunya, there is no enmity with anybody, there is no lack of compassion. So that is what we find here. And according to Western religions, he is also having a constant rivalry with another person called the devil, which means God, however powerful he may be, as I said, billion times more powerful than Schwarzenegger, he is also having a rival. That means God, as they define, by their own definition, he is a very limited person sitting in a particular place. And when they say the universe was created at a particular point of time, we all know that according to Western religions, the universe was created sometime in 4004 BCE. That is what they say. Whereas now I come to this Anaditvat, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidya Anadi Ubhavapi, that is 13th Adhyaya, 19th Shloka, where Shankaracharya comments on that. He says, if you say that the Srishti was created at a particular point of time, then the question arises, what was God doing prior to that? What Ishitavya Bhavat, Ishwarasya, Anishwaratva Prasangat, he says. That is, before this creation, there was nothing for him to lord over. Then he cannot be called a lord at all. You can be called a lord only when you have an empire under you. If you don't have anything, if you at least some servant under you, if you don't have anybody under you, then how can you be called a lord? So Ishitavya Abhava, there is nobody to lord over. So that problem arises. So there is a discussion on those lines. I cannot go into too many details there. So then, for example, and also there are some questions which have to be answered. The present day and the contemporary questions, or rather the criticism against the Indian religions. Because when I am referring to Gita Bhashya, I am also referring to religions because the religion is deeply impacted by the Bhashyam. Bhashyam is Vedanta. Vedanta means as it has come down to us through people like Shankaracharya. Not directly from the Upanishads, but Upanishads as interpreted by Shankaracharya and other people. Of course, one important question which we face, or rather criticism which we face, is about the multiplicity of gods. Oh, you people, you have got hundreds and hundreds of gods, etc. And unfortunately, some of our own people, I was shocked to find one of our own celebrity teachers was saying, oh, we have got 330 million gods, etc. I was shocked to find it. Unfortunately, if you just see the Upanishads, that is particularly the Shakalya Brahmanam of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, we see what exactly that 33 means. 33 crore, it does not mean crore number, it is not a numerical thing. That is category, and those 33 categories, they are again manifestations of one reality, and that is what Brihadaranyaka says, and that is what Gita Bhashya says. Gita Bhashya refers to that not frequently in 2-3 places, particularly in 7th chapter, 7-21, yo yam tanum bhaktaha, whoever in whatever form wants to worship me, I answer to him, in those I respond to him in the same manner. Then again in the 9th chapter 23rd sloka, Yepyanya devata bhakta, he goes one step further and says, even if you are worshipping somebody else, it is only going to one particular reality. So this sort of tolerance, this spirit of tolerance, acceptance, etc., you just cannot find in any other, say, culture. So that is what we find here. And the Gita, and there are of course some more charges. Recently there have been some charges. For example, if you just recall, a few years ago there was a case, a criminal case against against Gita, saying that Gita promotes violence. That is in Russia. In a Russian court, there was a case. And it is unfortunate that the case was not argued, and then it was sorted out at a diplomatic level. But it could have been argued, because there, it is surprising to see that Shankaracharya says, Nahi atra yuddha kartavya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. There is one line in the Gita. And on that, we just don't imagine that Shankaracharya, how he visualized that such an accusation can take place at some point of time. So he says, Nahi atra yuddha kartavyata vidhiyate. That is, he says, Krishna is not imposing, he is not dictating to Arjuna that he has to go for war. Arjuna himself had come prepared for that war, and having come prepared for the war, in the final moment he got confused. And so Krishna is merely reminding his duty, and he is not prompting him to make war. So in that line, in those lines, he expresses like that. So certain criticisms which we find from the modern people, from the present day people, we can answer if we just read Gita Bhashyam. One more misunderstanding which we have is about karma bhumi. Karma bhumi, we think that the geographical India is the karma bhumi, where if you do karma here, you will get a lot of punyam. If you go to America and do karma, you will not get punyam. So that is not karma bhumi. Karma, that is called bhoga bhumi, people say. Whereas in Vedanta, as Shankaracharya clarifies, karma bhumi, he explains in 16th chapter, 16th chapter, sloka number 24, and again 8th chapter, sloka number 16, he explains that the human janma is the karma bhumi. That is the level at which a person is having an opportunity to do some karma and elevate himself. As a lower animal, he doesn't have any opportunity to do karma. Or if it is a higher being, he has no opportunity to do karma. There is bhoga bhumi, heaven is a bhoga bhumi. Or if a person is born as some tiriyak jantu, that is also a bhoga bhumi, where he has to suffer whatever that life is. Whereas human life is the place where he can mend, he can he can elevate himself, he can go to a higher level. So this is the place, it is a karma bhumi. So karma bhumi is this. And of course, you find this in in Mahabharatam, in several places, what karma bhumi. In fact, there is a particular upakhyanam called Mudgala Upakhyanam in Vanaparva, where the where sage Vyasa explicitly says that human life is karma bhumi. So that is one thing. Then one more accusation which we find is, some people they ask, what is the use of a jnani? A jnani is somebody who is sitting in some isolated place, thinking, oh, I am Brahma, I am so and so, I am great, etc., etc. What is the use? So, but if we see what the Gita says, the jnani also does karma for loka sangraha. I was just referring to those shlokas, Sakta Karmanya Vidvamso Yatha Kurvanti Bharata, etc., etc., where Shankaracharya very often, very clearly says about how Janaka was was a jnani doing karma. Krishna himself is a jnani doing karma. He refers to that repeatedly. And unfortunately, there is some misunderstanding about Shankara Bhashyam, that Shankaracharya lays too much of emphasis on sannyasa. Shankaracharya doesn't lay too much emphasis. Whatever is there in the text only he is saying. In the text where there is mention of sannyasa, yes, there is a sannyasa, there is a sannyasa where the total karma sannyasa is also there. Whereas there is also an enlightened person can also be doing karma as part of his prarabdha. For example, a person is in sannyasa ashrama. In that ashrama there is no karma. Whereas I am a grihastha. I don't say that I am an enlightened man, but suppose there is a Grihastha and he is an enlightened man, like Lord Krishna himself, let us say, or King Janaka. There is an enlightened person and he is doing some karma. When he is doing karma, that jnani karma becomes akarma. There are several places there is a reference to what is called jnani karma, how it becomes karma abhasa. It is only apparently, for people who look at it, looks like a karma, but it is not precisely karma. Then again, one important allegation against the Indian society, where we have to take the help of Shankara Bhashya and some other Bhashyas. The most important allegation, more important than one, there are only two important allegations against the Indian, criticisms against Indian society. That is, one is about multiplicity of gods, and number two is about the caste. So the second allegation, problem is a more serious problem. The allegation is that Gita has created caste. So we have to see what exactly Gita says. The Gita has only examined human nature. It is not creating a particular caste called Brahmana caste or Kshatriya caste or Vaishya caste, etc. It is not caste. Gita is analyzing human nature in the framework of the three gunas, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna. And if we see the commentary of Shankaracharya very, very clearly says how Sattva guna pradhanasya brahmanasya, a brahmana in whom that Sattva guna pradhana. It is not as though Sattva guna is actually, other two gunas are not there. Sattva guna is there. Rajo guna and Tamo guna also to a limited extent will be there. So Sattva guna pradhanasya brahmanasya. Then again, Sattva upasarjana rajah pradhanasya kshatriyasya, he says. Sattva upasarjana means Sattva becomes a secondary and the Raja becomes a dominant. He is the Kshatriya. Then again, Tama upasarjana rajah pradhanasya vaishyasya. So Tama is upasarjana secondary and the Rajas is dominant, that becomes a Vaishya. So like that, the four categories, he says, they are based on the traits, the built-in traits of a human being. They are like the personality types. Nowadays, the psychologists, they do classify human beings into personality types. So what Lord Krishna has done, and what Shankaracharya explains, is about the personality types. So what Varna is something totally different from caste. We have got only 4 Varnas. An important point we have to note is that we have got only 4 Varnas, whereas there are thousands of castes which evolved depending on various social needs. For example, I need somebody weaver to make a cloth for me. So the weaver was required even thousands of years ago. So weaver, that particular community, they developed certain skills and then they became a particular group. Similarly, I need a cobbler. So the olden days also they had some people. I need somebody who is a goldsmith, or I need somebody who is an ironsmith. So similarly, in the olden days, also the people the society needed all those people. And if you read Rudram, in that Rudram, you find all the mention of all these castes. It is Rudram has not created. Rudram is only an exercise in seeing divinity in everybody, in every being. Rudram is a philosophical passage in which you are trying to see divinity in everybody. So, like that, there is all these the so-called castes were very much there in all societies, right from primitive, right from most ancient times, maybe thousands and thousands, maybe a few thousand years. And they were there even in the 18th, right up to 18th century. They were also present in the Western society also. So anyway, the most important point we have to see is that caste is a sociological phenomenon. Of course, this is a very big topic. In fact, we need 1 hour for this particular thing only. Precisely what I want to mention is what is mentioned in the Gita is only guna. It is only talking about a personality type depending on the innate tendencies or innate traits of a person, and it is not talking about a caste. Caste is a sociological phenomenon. That is one thing which we find. So now I want to conclude. It is about 35 to 40 minutes. I want to conclude with one sincere, one great, one comment rather. I often feel that the common man till about 2 decades ago, not 2 decades, 2 generations ago, say about 50 to 60, about 60 years ago, the common man in India knew the essence of Vedanta. He might not have been a very well-read man, but he knew several poems from Bhagavatam, he knew several things from Ramayana, he knew several things from Mahabharata, etc., etc. And he knew the crux of Vedanta. He might not have studied. In fact, Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc., they were written for the common people only. They were written for they were actually meant for the common man. They were not meant for scholars. In fact, if you read Ramayana, the last shloka of the first adhyaya, that is what we call Bala Ramayana, which says, Pathan Vijo Vagrushavattvamiyat, etc., etc. Janascha Shudrobi Mahattvamiyat. It is also meant for a Shudra. So everybody was reading because Sanskrit was the language which was known to almost all the people at that time. So it is not a common man in olden days, about 50, 60 years ago, he had some deep knowledge of the Vedanta. If not deep knowledge, he knew the crux of Vedanta. Whereas the common man today is totally divorced from that, he is totally cut off from that. Why common man? Even we are all cut off from that because right from the entire school education, college education, it has taught very meticulously, deliberately kept aside whatever is tradition. So that is where we are. So we now face a great danger. We now face a great danger of actually disowning what is our own thing, not knowing our own thing. So my one observation is that there is a great danger to the Indian society if the educated people do not know the Gita Bhashya, it may be Gita Bhashya or general Vedanta. If an educated man does not know what is Vedanta, he cannot explain to his own son why we are having so many gods. He cannot explain to people as to how caste is something which is different from Varna. Varna is different from caste. We cannot explain. We cannot explain various other things. So the situation is we are now seeing the two invading religions. Because as I said, we are common people. We are not Swamijis. We can talk freely. So the invading religions they are basically based on faith plus propaganda. Their main strength is faith and propaganda, whereas our strength is truth. This truth is like somewhat like Brahmadanda, and unfortunately, we are not able to know that we have got such great strength. So, if the educated man now does not know Vedanta, there is a great danger to Indian society. So that is what I think. And my appeal at the end, while concluding, my appeal to all the people is that all the educated, all the people is that whatever you may be doing, we are all great warriors in social media, and then we are also great warriors on Twitter, etc., etc. Whatever we may be doing, kindly listen to Gita Bhashyam, because we may not be able to read Upanishads, we may not be able to read Brahma Sutra Bhashyam. At least Gita Bhashyam is something which is giving everything what all we want in a very, very concise form. So my appeal is that all the educated people should listen to, not read, because very often we think that we can read Gita Bhashyam. It is very difficult. In fact, I had the great opportunity I was fortunate to listen from great teachers, from very great teachers. And even now, I do listen to some teachers. So listening is very, very important. So I request all the people, and with this appeal, I conclude my observations. Now we can have some Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was wonderful. Especially you brought the sociological aspects of the Gita Bhashyam. And in fact, I'm just thinking you can do a whole new talk on all the myths around Gita. You have actually, touched upon a few already about how it is, widely sort of misconstrued that Gita encourages caste system. You talked about gunas, but excellent clarification about, for example, karma bhumi, and also talking about how the Bhashyam has a fundamental aspect of no vaisishyam, no vaishamyam, no enmity, and and you have very nicely compared with all the other forces that we are fighting. Excellent advice at the end. Thank you so much, sir. There are lots of questions. So the first question was, what is the meaning of Amnaya?
Amnaya is something, it refers to the Veda only, that which has come down. Amnaya is something which has come down. I don't know the etymological meaning right now, but Amnaya is something which has come down to us. Amnaya. In tradition, something which has come down to us in tradition, but in the case of Veda, it has come down to us from the Brahma. Yasya nishvasitameva Veda, yasya nishvasitameva tad Veda, Rigveda, etc. Nishvasitam. The traditional belief is that Vedas have directly come as a sort of nishvasana from, that is the exhalation of the Creator. That is what they say.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. The other question is, one of the goals of this festival is, we said, not only do we want to create awareness about the life and works of Adi Shankara and his relevance to the modern world, we also wanted to create curiosity so people can go and learn more. So one of the questions is actually, how to study Adi Shankara's his work. Is there any particular sequence that you recommend? Where does one begin?
It depends on what we want. For a seeker, the best book is Viveka Chudamani. If suppose you are a seeker and you want to pursue what is the knowledge of self and you want to be a realized person and whatnot, the best book is, because I also taught, I had the opportunity of teaching Viveka Chudamani in the same Advaita Academy. And I was deeply impressed by Viveka Chudamani. But if you want to know the entire philosophical gamut, nothing like Gita Bhashyam. Gita Bhashyam, it gives a complete picture of, it puts everything in whatever that pigeonhole. Karma, what is the place of karma? What is the place of upasana? What is the place of atma sanyama? What is the place of bhakti? So it puts everything in its place. And Vedanta does not reject anything. It accepts everything, but then it puts everything in its place. And that sort of understanding, an overall understanding, you can have only from the Gita Bhashya. And of course, when this Brahma Sutra Bhashya, it is at a slightly dialectical level, where you have to refute not Jains, Buddhists, you have to refute Sankhyas, you have to refute somebody else and all that. Only the last two chapters, that is the Upasana, that is something to do with Upasana and also Phaladhyaya. There, actually, we come to Vedanta, whereas the first two adhyayas of Brahma Sutra Bhashya, there is more of refutation of various schools, etc. So we find more here in the Gita Bhashya, which is relevant to the modern reader and modern social issues also.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. So I think for those listening, and there are lots of resources on the Advaita Academy website, especially Viveka Chudamani and other lectures. And there is also a question about Gita. How does one study Gita, both from a philosophical viewpoint as well as a psychological viewpoint? And I think you mentioned, Gita Bhashyam is actually a good way to understand Gita and its relevance to the modern world. There was one other question. I think somebody made a request that you identified the 20 Ghatta slokas. Maybe there should be a talk on just those 20. What are those, and an expansion on it? There was a request that you should do a talk sometime in the future. Um, and one more tactical question. In the first chapter, Arjuna uses the word kulakshaya, and when he said kula, what did he mean? Caste or varnam?
He referred to what is called group only. A group, not exactly caste. It is not. You see, even in one caste, there can be several kulams. You see, for example, a particular caste, to take a particular caste, contemporary society only. And in that one particular caste, there are so many kulas. For example, here also in that Kurukshetra war, Kulakshaya, he is referring to his particular kulam, that Kuru clan, that particular Kuru clan. But there are innumerable Kshatriyas. He doesn't mind, Arjuna doesn't mind killing other Kshatriyas, whereas he is bothered about his own Kuru clan. So all the people are Kshatriyas. So it is not referring to a particular caste. It is referring to a particular group, a particular group of people. Kula is used in a rather narrow sense. And of course, Kula Dharma Sanatana, he says. Kula Dharma cannot be Sanatana Dharma, because Sanatana Dharma is totally different. And Kula Dharma is something which is tentative, which is temporary. So, but then Krishna, Arjuna slightly wrongly understands that it is Sanatana. Yes, please.
Wonderful. Thank you. And this question keeps popping up throughout the festival, and because in the modern life there are so many other sort of demands on our time. So, in our day-to-day living, how to inculcate Vedanta into our daily life?
What I advise to the readers of Gita is, we can take one shloka, for example. When you are terribly stressed out, you can take a shloka like Naiva Kinchit Karomi iti Yukto Manyeta Tattvavit Pashyan Shrunvan Sprushan Jigran Ashnan Gachan Swapan Shwasan. So you just you just deliberate on the meaning of that shloka all through the day. You take one shloka and try to live it. Take any shloka, take any other shloka and try to live it. On one whole day, you just try to think about, deliberate on the meaning of that shloka, try to live it. And particularly regarding, it is a stress buster shloka is that Naiva Kinchit Karomi. There is a fifth chapter. There is the number shloka, number I don't remember. Naiva Kinchit Karomi iti Yukto Manyeta Tattvavit. It is a stress buster shloka. So like that, there are so many shlokas which talk about how the self-control, Atma Sanyama Yoga, Atma Sanyama. Then again from 16th, 17th, 18th chapters, they are very, very important for personality development. What is the Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna? So many aspects of human nature, human personality rather. They are analyzed from the perspective of these three gunas. So how to avoid this Tamo Guna, etc., and how to develop Sattva Guna, how to refine oneself. So from that point of view, 16th, 17th and 18th chapter right up to 40, shloka number 40, etc., they are very, very important. So we can take one shloka, dwell on that, deliberate on that. And if we talk about other books, for example, Shankaracharya's Prakarana Granthas, let us say. Prakarana Granthas, many of the Prakarana Granthas, they are not for the ordinary reader. They are actually for an enlightened person who is at the level of Nididhyasana. For example, I take a book, something like Nirvana Shatkam. Nirvana Shatkam is not for an ordinary person. It doesn't make any sense. Or if you talk about Nirguna Manasa Puja, etc., it is for a person who is already enlightened and he wants to be in that state of awareness. He wants to be always he wants to be stable in that particular level. That is at Nididhyasana level. So for them, those Prakarana Granthas are there. So Prakarana Grantha, some Prakarana Granthas may be very, very primary. So the best book for a sadhaka is, from my point of view, as I said, is Viveka Chudamani. And for all-round personality development, it is nothing like, there is nothing like Gita Bhashyam. So Gita along with Bhashyam, and one has to listen to a teacher. Primary requirement is one has to listen to a teacher, however brilliant we are.
Beautiful. I just love the guidance that you gave. One shloka a day and just contemplate on it. That takes care of almost 2 years, right? With 700 slokas in there.
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, I have my own. Karmanyeva adhikaraste,
Yes.
because we think we are in control, but there's so many other market forces that sort of determine. So excellent guidance, sir. And I also want to make a note about how you brought the essence of Rudram and how to see divinity in everyone. So there are lots of myths that you have busted in a very short amount of time today, and I think there has to be a separate talk on that aspect. So the last question is. Um, somebody had a question about I think we talked about Vedanta in an everyday life, and someone said please comment about para prakriti and apara prakriti as per Gita Bhashyam.
Yeah, that is para prakriti and apara prakriti. Para, that is
Para
female,
prakriti, apara
that is
prakriti.
a feminine word. Para prakriti, prakriti is feminine. Para prakriti and apara prakriti. What are the para prakriti? If I have to say in a very very brief manner, what is called matter and mind. Matter is what is called apara prakriti. Mind is what is called para prakriti. The observer is supreme. Para is higher. Apara is lower. So observer is higher and whatever is observed is lower. So whatever is bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, khammano, buddhire, vacha, etc., all that is apara prakriti. What all we see, whatever you can objectify is something which is, it can be called kshetram, it is called apara prakriti, it can be called drishyam, you can use any word for that. So apara is something which is a lower level, that is what is seen, and para is your own self, the real self is your own para. Apareyam itastvanyam jivabhutam, there is one shloka, apareyam itastvanyam vidhime param, that is the seventh adhyaya, there is one particular shloka, that is para is something, the higher level, that is what Krishna says. So the observer and the observed, the sentient and insentient. So that is how, in very modern terms, we can use those. You can translate that para and apara.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. Um, you also explained about what is the importance of Gyani, and you said something very beautifully that Gyani does not mean he sits in one corner and just studies. He also does karma for Loka Sangraha. And after learning about you, and of course I've heard about you from so many people, and today to see you in person and to hear you, I think you are a Gyani, because as by joining the police force, you actually fought on the ground, and yet you are able to share
One
so
point,
much.
one point here. Gyani does not mean somebody who has some intellectual ability to talk about something. Gyani is also somebody who has got some inner transformation. I have to totally go beyond my ego. I have to totally go beyond my ego, totally go beyond my passions, etc., etc. So from that point of view, I cannot at all say at an intellectual level, I may be able to say certain things, I may be able to answer certain things, but I don't pretend to be a Jnani. So that is
No,
because Jnani is somebody who has to have that personal, his individual ego should have merged in that infinite ego. That is not infinite ego, infinite consciousness. So that is what. So when I am having my individual ego, I cannot call myself a Jnani. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm just very amazed by how you have integrated the sociological aspects, to Rudram, to the Gita Bhashyam, talking about certain myths and so on. So it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we will now move on to the second
Thank you,
part of the
Raviji. Thank
conversation.
you.
You are
Thank you
welcome
one
to
and
stay
all.
back, sir. And lots of comments about how wonderful it was, how you sort of clarified a lot of myths, and many requests that you should deliver a talk on Ghata Shlokas. So we will see if that's possible, sir, per your convenience. Thank you once again.